At the time of writing this, it's been 2 weeks since I've arrived here. These first weeks have been shockingly similar to my time spent in void space. That's completely my own fault, though. The player's disconnection is still something new, and due to that, I kind of wrote off the fact that I seem to be able to travel where I want to in this world. A bit of a foolish oversight, resulting in a bit of wasted time. It's not that important, though. Now I know better, and I'm sure I'll have plenty of time to fill myself in on what I unintentionally missed during my time shut away. After I came to that groundbreaking realization, that's sarcasm, by the way, if you can't tell by how I'm writing this, I wanted to actually explore more. I didn't know much of the layout of this world, and I didn't really know what to expect in the way of other life here. Whether that be other people, as unlikely as that may be, or something as simple as peaceful mobs. The land here somehow seems both more alive and more stagnant than any world the player took me to. It's an eerie mix, and one I don't even know how it's possible. I can hear birdsong during the day and crickets at night, which I'd only ever heard with the player's worlds when there were significant outside modifications to the environment. But as far as I can tell, everything here is just natural generation. Yet, despite the supposedly alive sounds of nature, I've hardly seen any mobs at all. It doesn't matter if they were passive or hostile. It's like the smaller things are alive and thriving, but anything of substance was gone, either keeping to themselves or not even around in the first place. This was all what I'd observed fairly close to the home I'd found, but I wondered if the environment would change if I traveled further. So, with the sun rising as I closed the door, I picked a direction and started walking. Oh, hello. Are you the village's bouncer? Of course you're not. That was a joke. The first creature I saw was a white cat. It was by a village, right where one would expect to find a cat, but it was just barely out of where the torch's light would be. It had been sitting, and it looked like it had been waiting. Are you hungry? Alright, let me see if I can find anything for you. Call it a waste of time if you want, but I felt bad for the little thing. Villagers aren't exactly the best pet keepers, and I wasn't sure when it had last seen someone other than a villager, if it ever had. It was very patient while I tried to find some food for it. Especially for a cat. Maybe it was just lonely. There weren't any other cats around, or any animals at all for that matter. It may sound silly, but I felt a connection to it. I've never bonded with an animal of my own will. Only ones the player chose, and although I know whoever's reading this won't know what I look like, trust me when I say this cat and I had a bit in common. There you go. Feeling better? Well, in that case, you're welcome to keep tailing me. No pun intended. Shall we go back to the village? After that was finished, it was time to get my first good look at the village. I hadn't noticed anything too out of place at a first glance, but to be fair, I did get a tad distracted before I could look too closely. As I approached, I recognized that there were additions to the village that wouldn't have been there naturally. At first it was just lampposts and signs, but then I noticed the buildings. A home dug into the earth, a home made out of earth, a few with decent construction and a few that weren't so great, and then what caught my eye the most, what the sign on the lamppost directed newcomers to. The library, sitting atop a hill and overlooking the small village. There was a book next to the door when I got up to it. I'm sure you've read it. This is what finally gave me a name as to where I was. Limbo. Seems like a fitting name. What do you think? Good chat. With one mystery solved, and having taken a step in the right direction, that was when I realized that, yes, other people had been here. Or are here. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure how this all works, but this is an invaluable source of information. It has the potential to be, at least. Only a couple books mention the stronghold, but that's literally the only other location that's written in any of these. I would ask you to help me sort through them, but, you know. You can't read. I'm working entirely off of other people's theories, so I'll have to look into it more myself before fully deciding what I'm going to do. I'm not an idiot, I know what a stronghold is, but my player was how do I put this lightly? A bit of a coward? Maybe a bit of a slack. I can only remember going to a stronghold once, and then I woke up at my spawn point with some nasty silverfish bites. The book on the lectern mentioned something about audio recordings, and that some hosts who left them in the stronghold weren't a full mind or body when they recorded them. That doesn't exactly sound appealing to listen to, and I'm not even sure what that means. Is there something that's causing it, or is it just the experience of being here by themselves with no answers? What does it mean that they're not a full body? None of these books here have any answer or explanation, which seems to be a pattern in this place, but it's the only direction anyone can point me in. Again, with minimal experience myself, it makes it significantly harder to know what to expect, especially when this entire world is some sort of unknown factor. I don't know if I can trust everything to work the same way it typically would. I'm taking the book mentioned with me, just for now, along with a few others. I'll bring them back in case anyone needs them, but I'm just hoping that looking at them in my own space might offer some kind of inspiration as to what I'll be facing. It seems like the audio records are some kind of taboo that no one wants to talk about, if people even know about them in the first place. I've only seen them mentioned a couple of times. I'm hoping to be able to get to check them out if I do decide to go to the stronghold, even if it's just to sate my own curiosity as to what they're about. I'll be back eventually. Will you be alright on your own? Right. You were doing just fine since before I came here. Not for the first time, I wondered if this cat, and these villagers, and whatever creatures I'd been hearing were like me. Are they stuck in this specific version of this world, or are they able to see and interact with multiple hosts at once, like they're sitting in the middle of a melting pot of colliding worlds, with the ones who are singled out being none the wiser? You're right. I think that's an existential crisis for another time. Bye.